Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. Hope you're all doing well. So we've been studying math equations, and hopefully you've caught on to some patterns here. When we've had math equations that have had addition in them, we solve them by subtracting. When we had equations that had subtracting in them, we solved them by adding. And most recently, when we had equations that contained multiplication, we solved them by dividing. We're going to look at the last equation today, which is solving equations by multiplication. We're going to look at equations specifically that look like this. X divided by some unknown number or some number equals some other number. We're going to look at equations that take this form. Now what I want to start out doing is look at where these equations might come from. So we're going to look at a couple word problems first to see where these kinds of equations might come from. Now, this first problem, Mr. Weber gave Sarah $8. This was 1/3 the amount he gave to Ashley. How much did he give to Ashley? Well, many of us could solve this by mental math, right? He gave Sarah $8, and that's 1/3 the amount he gave to Ashley. So if he takes Sarah's amount and multiplies by 3, the answer is going to be $24. So perfectly straightforward to get the answer, but I want to show what this might look like in the form of a math equation. So in the form of a math equation, what we'd do is we'd start out and figure out what's the unknown in the problem. Well, the unknown is how much he gave to Ashley. So we might say, let X equal Ashley. All right. Now, in the problem, it says Mr. Weber gave Sarah $8, so we'll hold on to that for a second. This was 1/3 the amount he gave to Ashley. Well, we have said that Ashley is X. So how would I show 1/3 of X? Well, I would show X divided by 3. And X divided by 3, I could write as a fraction like that. X divided by 3. Now, when I take Ashley's amount, X, and divide it by 3, I get Sarah's amount. So that's equal to 8. And that's a math equation in the form X divided by some number we'll call A equals some number B. Now, the way you solve that equation, this is a division equation, so you solve it by doing the opposite to what is with the variable. The variable is divide by 3, so the opposite of divide by 3 is to multiply by 3. Now it's really important, since we're already using an x for our variable, to show our multiplication, we'll use parentheses. So I'll show times by 3 right there. And it's important I show times by 3 on top of the fraction. It's wrong to write it on the bottom. This is wrong, because you're not actually multiplying by 3 then, you're multiplying by 1/3. So it's really important that when we show that multiply by 3, we use parentheses and we multiply right beside the variable. Now, just like with all the other equations and keeping in line with the idea of equality in algebra, if I multiply one side of an equal sign by 3, then I have to do the same thing to the other side. So multiply by 3, show those parentheses. Now let's see what's left. On this side of the equal sign, I have a 3 on top and a 3 on the bottom. So if we think fractions, they just would sort of cancel each other out. And really what I'd have with 3 divided by 3 is 1. And I still have my x. So I have 1x. And 8 multiplied by 3 is 24. And I can also just write that 1x is the same as x. And we're talking about money. So probably write that as $24. So that's where these math equations come from, a math equation that involves division. We solve it by multiplying both sides of the equal sign by the same number. Let's look at another one. The temperature in Winnipeg was 4 degrees Celsius. This was 1/5 the temperature in Victoria. What was the temperature in Victoria? Well, again, if we use some common sense here and really think about this, we can probably get the answer by mental math. Okay, the temperature in Winnipeg is 4 degrees Celsius, and that's 1/5 the size of the temperature in Victoria. So to get the temperature in Victoria, I would take Winnipeg's temperature and multiply by 5. Temperature in Victoria would be 20 degrees Celsius. But I want to show what this looks like as a math equation. So the first thing we would do is identify what we don't know. We don't know the temperature in Victoria. So let's call that x. And we'll say let x equal Victoria. Now let's go into the problem and translate some English language into some algebra. It says the temperature in Winnipeg is 4 degrees Celsius. Well, we'll just leave that for now. This was 1/5 the temperature of Victoria. And we've already said the temperature in Victoria is x. So how would I show 1/5 x? Well, I would take the temperature in Victoria, and to show 1/5 of that, I would divide it by 5 by making a fraction. And 1/5 the temperature in Victoria is the same, or equals, the temperature in Winnipeg, 4. And there's our math equation. X divided by 5 equals 4. Now the way to solve it, since I'm dividing the variable by 5, I'm going to multiply that side by 5 using parentheses. And if I do it to that side of the equal sign, I do it right there. 5 divided by 5 works out to 1x, and 4 times 5 is 20. Or I can also say x equals 20, and we're talking degrees Celsius. In the next video, we're just going to focus not so much on the word problems, but on just solving those equations by multiplying both sides of the equal sign by the same number. Flexing Teacher Weber, out.